So, hi everybody. Welcome to another episode on the Mindful Conversationalist podcast channel. And as you've been following my episodes, it's a space for meaningful and reflective conversations on the ideas shaping our lives and our world. So today's conversation is more than about achievements. It's about journey, it's about heart, and it's about what it truly means to lead, right? So I'm joined by Michael Daniel Bam. Welcome, Michael. And who's very at a young age is already embodying leadership, right? And that is deeply needed in today's world. And it's leadership that is rooted in courage, compassion, and service. And I had the opportunity to meet Michael at the G20 Interfaith Forum in Cape Town in August last year, where he delivered an opening speech as the junior mayor of Cape Town. And it was truly remarkable. Right. And it left many of us, especially the youth, deeply inspired by his vision and presence in leadership. I mean, I remember I was standing there with my camera and I recorded the whole speech you did, Michael. And I'm waiting for an opportunity to put it online, right? Because I was deeply moved by what you said and the way you said it. And so, we can see in today's world, right? Many people are overwhelmed, unheard, or uncertain about their place in society, and especially youth. And at the same time, we're seeing that, there's a growing need for leadership that moves beyond power and self-interest and instead focuses on serving communities with integrity and purpose. And so I hope our conversation to whomever's listening to us today will be that special reminder that no one is too young to make a difference, but also how even the smallest meaningful action into stepping into leadership can create like a very impactful situation in our communities. And, through your foundation as well, I've been following you on Facebook, and I see that you started a foundation, and I see what you've been doing, and it's so amazing, and it represents this hope and a powerful reminder that any action, no matter how small, makes a difference, and it makes a difference in somebody else's life, right? So I hope our conversation will explore your journey, your challenges as well, your values and your vision, and may it inspire people, right, with courage and also to live in responsibility. So again, thank you, Michael. Thank you for being here and welcome to my podcast. And so I'm going to start off by branching out to ask you, where you are today in your life. You are only 15 years old, am I right?
I've just turned 17.
17. Okay, wow. Yeah. You're still young, right? And so you still hold that sense of leadership for youth, right? So beyond titles and achievements, who are you at the core as Michael? And what experiences in Cape Town, shaped the way you care so deeply for others and who you are today as Michael?
Yeah. So, firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I think, who is Michael? It's a difficult question, because I feel like I get so caught up in my work sometimes. You kind of forget to do the basics of being a teenager, But who is Michael Daniel? I think I'm just a boy trying to navigate his way through this world. And I think it's a very challenging world. I think there's lots of people who are facing incredible hardships. And I think, that it comes almost with a responsibility, I feel, to be in a privileged position, which I think that I really am. And to have so many opportunities, I feel like it comes with a responsibility to also help other people, especially those who are facing hardships. And so I think that leads into why I've kind of gotten into this line of work, and what's made me care so deeply about people is I think, especially within Cape Town, is there's a very stark difference between, very simply, to put it very simply, those who have and those who don't. And so my family is originally from Grassy Park, that's on the Cape Flats in Cape Town, and I now stay in a far better area. I stay at Rondebosch Claremont side, which is fantastic, lots of trees. But it's a very big difference to Grassy Park. And so to have seen my family in that area and to see the people who are staying there and a lot of the hardships that they face, to moving now into a far better privileged position to see the world of those who really have. Seeing that difference really inspired me. And I think, I have to also give a lot of credit to my family, because I think if they didn't rear me and raise me the way that they have, I wouldn't care. I think there's a lot of people out there who are in similar positions to mine, who are incredibly privileged, who haven't really been raised in a manner that lets them see, you need to care for others. So I'm incredibly grateful to my family for that as well. So yeah, that's who I am, and that's kind of why I've started caring so deeply.
Thank you for sharing on that. And was there a defining moment that you saw something that you couldn't ignore that like push you into this awareness and into this action? Because I've never been to Cape Flats, right? Even though I live in South Africa, and but I've heard the stories around it, which is the hardship that goes on there. And knowing that you came from that place, maybe you can share a little bit of what it's been like growing up there, but also what actually moved you into awareness, into action of wanting to make a difference in your community.
Yeah, so I was born into my family, and they obviously they lived in Plumstead at the time. However, my broader family was still staying in Grassy Park. And so I often spent a lot of my weekends there. I spent a lot of my school holidays there with my cousins and my grandparents. And then there you really get exposed to the hardships that people are facing. And that was kind of how I got that exposure and how I learned these lessons, because my cousins and I would often get onto our bicycles, and they stayed in a cul-de-sac. And so we'd ride our bicycles in circles. But even in that small little corner, you could really see the people who were struggling. You could see people sitting on they call it a flay, like just a little piece of land sitting there, really struggling, having to beg for food and water. And then, sorry, I've now totally forgotten the other part of your question.
No, you actually answered it, because it was about what moved you to go into this awareness of wanting to help your community. And it's that seeing the suffering of others. And I think, not to idolize our situation and the way we're brought up, but I kind of relate to what you're saying, because I live in Phoenix, right? And it is a marginalized community with its hardships. Like, I've experienced COVID changed the landscape of our communities a lot. And especially when that happened, that's when the community didn't know how to grasp and deal with the situation. And a lot of it came along the way with a lot of suffering that brought a lot of things, like I can speak specifically for Phoenix, right? Where it ended up being with unrest and social and political stuff that went on. Also, there was also dealing with COVID. Also, we've got constant situations, of water and electricity cuts and stuff. So I can relate to say, where you see the suffering of others and society, and acknowledging your own also suffering and part in this whole thing. But you also have this moment to not really, you have a moment to either be a victim of your circumstances or not, or to rise beyond that, or try to make whatever difference you can in whatever small way to change your circumstances or how people could live, right? So tell me, what made you step into junior mayor leadership? I mean, when I heard there was a junior mayor, I didn't even know that was around and that title existed in Cape Town, right? And I was like, wow, right? And tell me, from that journey, like, what was the experience like for you? What did it teach you? The responsibilities that you couldn't learn in school, that you learned by just being a junior mayor?
Yeah, so I think the journey to junior mayor started a long time before I got there. I think it had come, I was roughly around 8 years old the first time that I really ran a project, or the first time that I did something, in I think a bigger than just myself way, right? I was 8 years old, and at the time I was spending a lot of time at the League of Friends of the Blind, which is a local non-profit organization in Grassy Park. and they assist individuals with visual impairments. And so they help especially blind people get back into mainstream education or mainstream workspaces. And so I spent a lot of my time there. And so I started a holiday club, right? So I took kids at my school and I said, let's go and have a holiday club there to raise funds for the organization. Now, it wasn't as successful as I had hoped. I mean, I only had one other person come, and we did manage to raise 100 rands. And I think, although it isn't a grand sum of money, I'm glad that I had done that, the little bit that I did. And so that really planted the seed of, I want to help people. And you know, spending a lot of my time there, I used to volunteer there quite often, and I would clean the chairs and mop the floor in the hall. And in that time, I also got to engage with the people being served. And I got to speak to them a lot, and I got to see how much the little thing that I was doing was impacting someone else. And so that really inspired me. And so to get to the junior mayor platform, I was actually standing one day outside in my garden, and I was watering the garden, right? And I was scrolling on Instagram, as well, I mean, teenagers do. And I had scrolled across the Deputy Mayor of Cape Town, Alderman Eddie Andrews. I scrolled onto his Instagram story, and he had reposted the applications for the Junior City Council. And when I saw that, I was like, that's it. Like, this is a solid opportunity to take. At the time, I'd already been running my foundation. So I saw that as a prime opportunity to take the work that I had been doing and now spread it, to multiply it and to grow it and to give it a greater platform to do more. So then I applied, I joined the Junior City Council, elections came, and they elected me as the junior mayor. Now, this is where we come to struggles. This is where we come to the problems, you know, where we start to see getting a little bit, or what's the word, where you're not as motivated. The unmotivation, I suppose, starts to hit you and so on. But I think lessons that I learned from that is you actually sometimes just need to knuckle down. Even if it doesn't seem like the most pleasant work, writing that funding proposal to ask someone for some money to do a project, even if it comes down to having to sit and late at night to do the work, it's all worth it. Because once you're done with that, at the end of the month long that it takes to plan that project, you get to see that smile on one person's face. And even, you know, luckily I'm at the point now where I get to impact hundreds of people at a time. But even when it was just that one person's face, it made the biggest difference to me. And that one person's face, to know that I had made a difference in that one person's life, was enough to keep me going for the next 3 months, to plan and then execute the project again. I'm actually reminded now, her name is Auntie Maria, and she was one of the first beneficiaries of my Project Eudaimonia, which is where we hand out food to people experiencing homelessness here in Cape Town. And Auntie Maria is likely, I think she's roughly my grandmother's age, and she's just genuinely such a caring woman. And I think I'm reminded of her because she is often who I think about when that little bit of apathy, I suppose, when that hits, and when I feel a little bit like I'm lacking motivation, I think, you know what, Auntie Maria is who I'm doing this for. Or a shepherd is who I'm doing this for. These are the people that I am working for. Because it's not about me. It's not about making myself look good, but it's actually about helping others. I think another lesson that I've learned, time management. Definitely time management has been a big lesson that I've learned. I'm now sitting with, this is my second meeting for the day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but considering I've come from a full day of school, had to leave school early to go to a meeting, just about got home now to do this, and then I've got another another meeting after this, and I've got an English oral tomorrow for school. So time management is really something that I've learned. I've learned how to fit everything into the small little gaps that I've got. And I think this year, I'm also getting a little bit better with having a social life. So I think I'm starting to round it off nicely. But yeah, that's what I've learned. And that's how I got to where I am.
That is so beautiful. I love it because why I love what you're saying is that, you're talking about just seeing that smile or that appreciation on just one person's face. And I've also experienced that, right? So in my faith, like Hinduism, we call it seva, right? And we call it loka sangraha, where you're doing actions for the benefit and the welfare of humanity, right? And so through that faith, like, I've been involved in many projects, right? Community projects. And I remember this one project, I went into a school and I was doing organic gardening, and it was a rural school. There was about over 200 kids. And we were doing a program on teaching them about the speckbone and vetiver grass, organic farming, climate change. And I was doing an earth meditation that my guru taught me. And basically, everyone was so rowdy, and I knew it was a rowdy school. And I know that, whatever I'm doing, I'm just going to do it with a good heart, open heart. And I like in the Gita, we taught, you have the right to the actions, but not to the outcomes, right? And then you just surrendered the outcomes to God, right? So, but there was one girl who was sitting in the front, and she was writing the whole time. And everyone, you could see the front row was listening, some were listening, some behind it were like, I'm almost listening. The ones at the back were rowdy, having fun at the time. I couldn't get to them. But there was just one girl in the front, and she just had a pen and page, and she was listening to everything I was saying about leadership and about, be the change you wish to see in the world, that Mahatma Gandhi said. And then when I asked afterwards I asked questions and who can answer them, nobody could. Only she stood up and she came and she spoke. And just to hear that the one person was like, the whole thing was just like, it was worth it. It was completely worth it. And I was like so grateful and so happy to be a part of the program that could just it just affected someone's life positively. Even if it's just one person, I'm just happy, right? So I truly understand what you're saying, and that's so beautiful. And tell me more about your foundation, right? Because I've seen online on Facebook, for recently now for Easter, you gave us so much hampers. There were school shoes. There was you were feeding the people on the streets, but you were having so much fun, even making that food and feeding the people. And I was like, wow, I've never seen that in a hurry, because usually when people are feeding or serving, it's concentrating on the task. It's so strict. It's but you guys were just having the time of your lives. You were just having so much fun. So tell me more about that, and tell me more about your foundation as well.
Yeah. So, because it's the last thing you said, I'm going to start on that about having fun while we're doing the food parcels. I think that's what that project is all about. To sum it up, it actually is about having fun. Not only as the people making the meal and preparing it, but it's also about bringing a day filled with joy, a day filled with fun and happiness to those that we are serving. Because I think it's one thing to have your stomach filled with food, and I think it's almost, my dad said it before to me, it's another thing to have your belly filled. And I think with that project, really, the main point of it is to fill someone's belly, not only in terms of the food in their stomach, but also in terms of their experience and their memory of that day. I think another thing that I want to say is the reason that I try to create this fun atmosphere around preparing the food is that I also want to show volunteers that come and do it, you can have fun with your friends and make a difference in someone's life. The one does not have to come without the other. You can actually synchronize the two, put them together, and make good while having fun with your friends. You can do good and impact someone positively while bonding further with your friends. And that's one of the most important points around the foundation in general, I think. And then with the foundation more specifically, there's a lot I could say. It has grown exponentially from what it started off as. I started the foundation back in 2023. It was the end of 2023, and it had just started with one project. So it was just known as Project Eudaimonia, which is now my main project, primary initiative. And so Project eudaimonia is a Greek word, and it's all about joy and fulfillment. It's fulfillment, about being fulfilled and having like a good spirit, properly having and feeling true joy. And that's what that project is about. It started off as I walked through my park and I'd walk past the same man every single day. But I was with my dog and I was just in a rush to get home. It was 8 o'clock at night that I'd walk past him, and never did I think, why is he there? I just wanted to go home. Until one day I was like, you know what? No, this is not right. I cannot walk with my head down. I actually need to stop and greet. I want to know, who is this man? He seems like he's my neighbor because I live right next to the park and he's always there. So I think that I should get to meet him. And so I greeted him. He told me his name was Shepherd, and him and his entire family were living in the park. And that day I was like, wow, this is my neighbor. He's literally my neighbor. And he's having to stand here and ask for food. Something's not right about that. And so it was that Christmas that I put together some meal parcels and we handed it out to Shepherd and his family and another 20 odd, I think, individuals around the southern suburbs. And so that's how this thing started. And then from there, it's just grown and grown and grown. I've now got, I don't know, there's a lot of projects going on. I've got my Project eudaimonia, which is my primary initiative. I've got my second project, Project Plesi. So Project Plesi is another Greek word, and its meaning is to cleanse, so to wash. And the idea behind that project and what the project does is it gives hygiene parcels to those who need it most. So this includes a sanitizer, bar of soap, a shampoo, a sponge, a toothbrush, toothpaste, and most recently it's evolved to be targeting specifically young girls. And we are adding into that project hygiene products, sanitary products, So we are including pads, and I'm hoping to get some girls from my school in and some teachers, some female teachers preferably, to teach the girls also about their period cycles, right? And to teach them about how to maintain, how to be healthy, how to maintain their health, and how to maintain their cleanliness, so to speak, in terms of how to take care of their bodies, And then hopefully my plans for the future are to also expand it to the boys and also teach the boys. But we do with budget what we can. And then another one of my projects, Project Enteleki, another Greek word. And this is speaking to the realization of potential. And so this is my project directed at young people. So we obviously met at the G20's Interfaith Forum. And I've met a lot of people on this journey. And I've had my story told, and I've been able to tell my story across various platforms like this podcast, for instance. And so many young people have reached out to me from across the country, and they've said, how can I do what you're doing, but in my small corner of the world? And so Project Enteleki is all about equipping those young people with the skills to do it. So it's me taking all of the nitty-gritty lessons that I've learned and teaching other young people so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that I did, and so that they can make that positive difference within their areas. And I think in that way, when we each start doing a little bit, the whole world will end up being a whole lot better off. So those are my three main projects. I've then got, almost as a more philanthropic or corporate social impact side of things, I then connect with companies and organizations and donors, and I see what have they got available and where is it needed? Where can it go? So for an example, I've now reached out, I was just at the meeting now actually at the school where we're going to be putting in a computer lab with 30 PCs and full setups. And so the way that I got there was I connected with someone who connected me with someone that got me into the room with this big tech company in South Africa that sells all of these technology goods. And so I was like, look here, what have you guys got that's no longer suitable for your store environment? Or what have you got that you would like to donate? Let me find the people that need it. So that's what I'm doing on that side. I also, with South Africa's largest e-commerce retailer, e-commerce platform, Takealot, I ran last year, towards the end of this year as well, the beginning of this year as well, sorry, I ran a donation through them. So I took some of their stock that they had and I donated it to a hospital's adolescent unit, specifically towards their obesity clinic. So it was some fitness equipment, some TVs as well, just to overall brighten up the space. And so I'm always looking now at the new ways that I can do these sorts of things and genuinely just help people. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I've got another project that we just completed. You spoke about the school shoes and the school shirts. And so that project was up in Bonnievale. It's in the Western Cape, close by to Robertson. It's around 120, 180 kilometers away from Cape Town. And so I took a drive out that side with a couple of my friends from school and a few people from other schools. And we delivered some school shoes and school shirts, which was made possible by Pep. So very big thank you to Pep. And we took that and we took some food parcels as well. And then I think the highlight of the day was we got to spend some time at an ECD in Bonnievale, and we just got to play with some kids for like an hour and a half. And it was really amazing. We had a fantastic time. We got to really bond and connect with the children that were there. A lot of them only spoke Afrikaans. And not all of my volunteers could speak Afrikaans. I mean, I don't speak Afrikaans very well. But there was something about, we still managed to communicate with the children. You know, we still managed to have fun and we managed to break through that language barrier. And we actually just, it was almost like eudaimonia, you know, having that true joy. So yeah, that is summed up briefly the foundation and what I do and how it came about. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, that's just awesome, to hear so many projects. But as you said, this organization started from scratch. You had nothing, and now it's to see what it's building into and coming into its own. It's like wonderful to hear. But I mean, I just want to touch on some of the things you said, right? Because that aspect you spoke about fun, I think it's so important, and that's such a beautiful teaching from your father, about giving to society and giving to others. How you give is also important, right? The intention behind it. And so the intention behind it, if you're giving with a good and open heart and it's fun and it's just like you're creating that sense of love in that moment, and that sense of togetherness and caring, has much more value than what you're actually giving, right? So because there's a saying, I don't know if you know about it, but it's about people always remember you from how you made them feel, So it's that, and I think that's very beautiful. And it reminds me of an event that we had in Durban with the KZN Interfaith Interreligious Youth Council. We used to have a street kid soccer. So we used to take street kids from the street with the organization that looks after them. They got safe houses for them if they want to come into the safe house and get back integrated into their communities. Or if they don't and they just want to go back on the streets, they don't force them, but they provide a safe house until it's time for them to want to be reintegrated into society, because they left for reasons beyond themselves, whether they from their families or whatever. So what we would do is we would get this organization to gather the street kids for us, and we would go out of school and we would just play street kids bare feet soccer. So, and it was just like playing soccer, and we give them food, whether it's like hot dogs or whatever, cool drinks, whatever. And we spent the day together just having fun and being together. And we gave trophies or whatever. And it was such a beautiful event. We're trying to revive it, but these things, it takes time. Because youth is always in transition and people are always moving to the next things in their lives. But it was a really beautiful event. So it reminded me of that. And I think that's a beautiful reminder for our audience, whoever's listening to us that wants to be inspired here today. But also the other thing that you spoke about is the program that you have where you're trying to equip and empower other youth to also do this because they came to ask you about this. I think it's very beautiful. Maybe you can has the program started, or is it still starting, or what are for people listening to us right now, what are the tips that you can give them to sort of integrate into your program or know more about your program?
Yeah, look, if you are watching this, listening to this, and you are wanting to be a part of that group of people who are getting I suppose it's really just the lessons that I've learned and the little bit of wisdom or the little bit of knowledge that I've got. If you're looking and getting into some of that, you can reach out to me on our website, mdbfoundation.org, or you can reach out to me at michael@mdbfoundation.org. And then from there, we can take it. It's really, there isn't like an application process or this whole selection process thing. It's really just a bunch of young people that have reached out to me. And so I try and also develop a personal connection and relationship with them so that I can also kind of see what are they doing, get feedback on it, and see how is it that I could maybe take the funders that I can find here in Cape Town and also spread it across the country. So yeah, reach out to me via email, reach out to me on our website. I'm always open ears.
No, that's wonderful. And it reminds me of that movie. I don't know if you watched it, Pay Forward. It's a very famous movie. Okay. So it's a kid in a class, and the teacher basically said, how would you pay it? Well, he put them at a challenge, to do a project. And the project was to do something that will change your community. And so this boy, what he did was he did a kind action. And instead of asking the person to pay him for it, for whatever he did, he said, you pay it forward to another 3 people. And that's what they did. And then those 3 people, when something nice was done to them, they had to pay it forward for another 3 people. So it went in multiples of 3s, and that's how he affected change in his community by just the concept of paying it forward. I'll actually send you a link to that movie. It's a very brilliant movie. I absolutely love it. But I love the concept of it, because imagine if everyone paid it forward. Somebody did something nice for you when you were in trouble and need, and then you got, instead of taking money from them or asking something, you just say, no, pay it forward, do something nice for somebody else. And if we did that in our everyday lives, we would have a totally different community, So I think it's a beautiful concept. But just to touch a little bit on faith, right? I see your projects are aligned, as you said, very much to Greek mythology, right? The only thing I know about Greek mythology is the PS games I've played, God of War and things like that, right? So that's my introduction in Greek mythology, and I just loved it. But tell me, what made you align into Greek mythology, and what influenced you? Because it's such beautiful comparisons and meanings behind your project.
Yeah, so I think it's not necessarily aligned with Greek mythology. I mean, my knowledge to Greek mythology is limited to the English orals I've done in the past and Percy Jackson. So that's about the most of it. Watching the movies, I think the Greekness from it. In hindsight, I probably should have gone with an African language. I think if I could go back and change it, I would make it an African language, but have the same meanings behind the word. At the time the Greek word came about, my dad has got tattooed on his, I don't know which thigh, but on his thigh he's got 3 different or 4 different words for love in Greek, with their different meanings. And so when I was thinking about naming this project, I was sitting in the car with him and I was like, what should I call it? And he said to me, something memorable, something people will remember. So don't go with Project Kindness, because it's not, the name doesn't leave something that rings. But for instance, what I named it, eudaimonia, you're bound to think a little bit more about it. If you'll probably be confused by the name, but at least you'll be thinking about it, right? And so he had those Greek words on his thigh, which made me think of Greek. And then I thought, wait, recently in that year, I had written a poem in my English class, and it was titled Eudaimonia. So I don't know, it was a poem about kind of just finding your way, how sometimes life goes up, sometimes life goes down. But at the end of the day, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. It was a poem along that kind of a theme, and I titled it Eudaimonia. It was about finding your eudaimonia. And then so his tattoos gave me that idea of Greek word. And then when I thought of Greek word, I thought, wait, I used the Greek word not too long ago, eudaimonia. Let me name it that. And ever since then, it's kind of just been my theme. I've kept it running. I think I might transition to African languages for the next 3 projects. Maybe I'll release them like sets. Like I did a Greek set of 3. Now I'm going to do my next set of 3. But yeah, anyways, that's how the names came about. Yes.
That's pretty cool. And then is there anything like, I don't know what faith you belong to, but is there anything from your faith that has shaped who you are, like in terms of as a person and what your beliefs are and what you contribute to society as well?
Yeah, so I believe in Jesus Christ. I am a Christian. I think one thing that I constantly is there's 2 things. The one is I think something that really guides me in all the work that I do, and it's a Bible verse. I think it's 3 Colossians 23, or it's 3 Corinthians. I think it's 3 Colossians. And it says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if for the Lord and not for human masters. And I think that right there centers absolutely everything that I do. And that is what everything that I do is centered around, is that every single thing I do, I want to work as hard on it as if I'm working for my creator and not just for a boss. Yeah. Although I don't work for a boss, fortunately, but like that, I think that's one. And then the other one, it's actually my Instagram, what are they called? Bios. I think it's also a Bible verse. I think it comes from the book of Isaiah. And it says, better is the poor man who walks in his righteousness than a rich man who is crooked in his ways. And I think that speaks to another thing that I want to center my life upon, is that better is a poor man who is, not only disciplined, but a man that is just, somebody that is kind, caring, loving, a righteous man. Is better off poor than having all the money and all the materialistic things in this world, but being a bad person. So yeah, I also think a lot of what I do comes from, I don't think that anything happens just for no reason. I think everything lines up, and everything has been lined up to happen in a certain way for a reason. And so it's when I keep on finding myself in these rooms, and as my work progresses, as I find myself in a different boardroom, in a different environment, it's that I think of it, I didn't end up there for no reason. I'm here, and I think that my reason to be here is to help others and to serve my God. And I think that's the reason that I'm here, is to bring glory to Him through helping others and through doing what He would want us to do here, and that is help others. I think, it's gone out of my mind now. Oh, there we go. Nope, it left me. Let me see if I can get it back. What did I want to say?
To the faith. But while you're thinking about it, right? I want to say that, that's really beautiful. It's beautiful to be rooted in your faith, right? And in your tradition. And I can relate, because the very fact of wanting to do something to serve your creator and not yourself takes away that egocentric driven intention out of your actions, and it reminds you here that, in this vast creation of this universe, you are a speck of dust here, and you are put here, as you said, for a purpose, for a divine will, and that divine will gets revealed as you live your life. But if you can align with the creator and the divine will, it makes life more meaningful and more with more purpose. And like in my faith, Hinduism, we call it dharma, right? Doing your actions and your duty that you are meant to do here on this planet in service to your community and to God, right? So I think that's very beautiful what you said. And I think that's so beautiful at a young age that you are rooted and grounded in this, because it sets the foundation for the rest of your life. But also you're showing to other youth out there, because many of them are like moved away from their religion or tradition or teachings, or, I know a lot of youth that are atheists, right? But it's what you emphasizing that comes out of your religion is just that being a good human being. Our humanity comes first more than anything, and I think that's very powerful, right? Yeah. So what did you remember that you wanted to share?
Yes. Two things popped into my mind. I actually said the Bible verse is wrong, because it's not supposed to be 3 Colossians 23. It's Colossians 3:23 or Corinthians 3:23. Anyways, that was my first one. And then the second one was, I was speaking to my mother about it the other day, and I was like, what are the odds that I become a junior city councillor and the junior mayor of Cape Town in the year that the G20 is held on the African continent for the first time, and let alone hosted by South Africa, because that G20 platform gave me so many different opportunities and different platforms and events to speak at and network and connect and to amplify the work that I'm doing. And so that's just more on that. I don't think anything happens just for the sake of happening. And I thought now when it came back to my mind, it's like even just seeing that Instagram post to apply for junior counselor. What are the odds that I was sitting in my garden at that time, connected to internet on my phone, following the deputy mayor to see that post? Like, it's everything is built in such a way that nothing happens for no reason. And I think it's also settling to my heart. And I think that it's also softening to my heart to know that when I go into times where I face hardship, that does not happen for no reason. Everything happens for a reason. I think it brings a lot of peace to my mind as well. And I don't know why, but in the past few weeks, I've been saying it to my parents quite often, or to my mom quite often specifically, is that everything happens for a reason. And sometimes some doors get closed so that others can open. Sometimes you need to close the window to put the aircon on, things like that. And I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Everything does happen for a reason. It's divine will for your purpose. And I know exactly how you're feeling, because I've been in moments like that, where I wanted to serve and do something for my community. And by being in that space, it opened up another door that allowed me to serve more. And with it comes greater responsibility, but it just led from another place to another place. And sometimes people tell me, you're so lucky. And I'm like, it's not luck. It's because it's hard work, right? It's literally hard work. And it's literally like putting yourself out there in the most uncomfortable zone, but also being challenged at the same time, because you're not in your comfort zone. But that's what it means if you really have the intention of wanting to serve your community or society, because you're going to face challenges and you're going to face hardships and you're going to face a lot of problems. But as you said, these things make you stronger and helps you to grow, right? I see you smiling there a lot. Is there something else you want to share on it?
No, I was just thinking it's so true that, is that firstly, working in this space is not easy. I recently, my girlfriend's dad, right? So she told me that he's planning on retiring into the nonprofit space. And I was like, are you sure he's retiring then? Because this is like robust, energetic, difficult, complex, challenging work to do as something that you'd like to retire into, but it's so rewarding too. And I think I'm so giddy, I suppose, and smiling so much because I think it's a good reminder to have now when I'm in the thick of things, getting really knuckling down now. Like I've got to do a whole lot of stuff this evening, and then I still have to go and do an English oral tomorrow. So I'm just holding on to my sanity here. But this is it's a nice reminder to have this conversation and to think on those points that the stress doesn't come for no reason, and in fact, the stress is there for a reason, and everything is lined up the way that it has, and this conversation is at the time that it is for a reason, and it's just, I don't know. It makes it a bit. I don't want to say it just makes it a bit easier to sleep at night, but it softens the blow, of all of the work and the hardships. You understand? And yeah. Anyways, that's why I'm smiling so much.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, as we said, when you challenge and you can face that challenge and how you face it and the way you face it, it shows your character. And imagine if life was a straight line and easy all the time. What is there? You'll never know your strengths, you'll never know your courage, and you'll never know the character and who you truly are. Because in the midst of your challenge and your difficulties will reveal who you are as a person. And that's what I've discovered on my journey, And in that midst and that challenge and that difficulty, does it reveal whether you are a kind person or you're an unkind person? Will you still keep to your promise and your word, or will you not? And that's the way it shows your character and your beliefs and your ethics. And I think that's, I'm really loving our conversation because we're touching on a lot of things that I think that, would show youth out there that, we are people who are coming from the same background with the same challenges, but we still strive to be something beyond our circumstances, to do something good in our community, And for me, it's always about I always ask myself this question when I self-reflect to, what legacy do you want to leave behind? Is it one of kindness? Is it one of love and compassion? Or it's the other? Because you can see there's so much negativity in this world. There's so much conflict. There's so much going on. And the world needs more people and leaders, and especially youth like you, who can bring about that different way of leadership in this world, but also a different way of people engaging in this world, that is of kindness and compassion and going beyond yourself, going that extra mile. And for that, I'm so grateful to have met you. And I'm so grateful to have met you at the G20 Interfaith Forum, right? Just a little bit to touch on the G20 Interfaith Forum. What was it like for you? Because for me, I just had an amazing time. I was in a room full of youth and a lot of change makers and peacemakers, people like you, with essence and value and doing things in their community. And there was so much love and so much passion I felt in that room that it made me so hopeful, because I felt like I was living a little bit in a world of despondency because of the way things are and the communities are. And, when you're in space with that kind of leadership and youth, it's just so inspiring, and it puts you on the ball again, right? And it was Acquaid that held that program that we were involved with. But it was just so beautiful to meet youth around the world. And I was very appreciative of that at that G20 Interfaith Forum. So what was it like for you, and what were your highlights and key moments?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was equally as fantastic, because I think especially now we live in a world where religion can be weaponized, and it is being weaponized in so many different ways. We see people starting to take religion and use it as a cause for wars, and I think what the G20 Interfaith Forum for me is I got to see that there is hope, and 100% there are people out there that are able to use faith not as something to put up more barriers between us and to divide us, but rather to bring us together. And I think that was the highlight for me, was to be able to see people from all different walks of life, people from many different continents, people from different countries, people with different beliefs and faiths, all under one roof, sitting peacefully next to one another and discussing how it is that we can create a world of peace. It was truly phenomenal. It was an exceptional experience. I hope I can go again next time. I'm not sure what country the G20 is in next, but it would be amazing if I could go again. Maybe next time I'll be flying abroad to join. But that was my thoughts on the experience and how amazing it was.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you and relate. And that's why, like, I'm working in the interfaith space for the last 13 years and in doing this interfaith youth work because of all these people that I've met. And that's the reason why I started this podcast as well, is because there's so much despondency in this world and negativity. And, I've met such beautiful people that are doing such amazing, beautiful work, and they want a different world and they want to see life differently and they want to engage in life differently, especially the youth. And so, that's what keeps me so inspired, because when you meet these people and you meet what they're doing and how they think, it just gives you a different way of seeing life and a different perspective, and especially what you said around religion, because the spaces that I've been involved in, everybody is coming together wanting peace. And so religion is seen as a tool, not for destruction or conflict, but as a tool to bring and unite, to appreciate our differences and how you honor God and what your beliefs in God are, And at the same time, I can learn about your beliefs and learn about how you feel about God. And I love it. And for me personally, and that's why I call myself a little bit of an interfaith practitioner, although I'm a Hindu, is because I love the aspects of all religions, because I've been to church with my cousins and my aunties, and I've listened to the praise they've had, in the church, which is so beautiful. They worship to God. I've been to with my Muslim friend to mosque, and I've sat on Eid day and prayed in the mosque. I've learned about the Sufism and about the Sufic poets and how they relate to God in their beauty. And I've been to met indigenous leaders and shamans, by being with attending these religious conferences, and I have so much appreciation of how they see life and their wisdom. And I'm learning about Sikhism, which is so beautiful, right? Because I'm learning about the religion, and it's so connected to the divine will and about the gurus and how much reverence and respect they had for the gurus. But also, it's like there's so much beauty I see across religions, and I can't understand, why do people want to fight about it? Why do people need to prove that their God is better than the other God? Why can't we appreciate all and see that all is leading to the same place and in their own way, in their own beauty? So that baffles me. I don't know. It just baffles me about society and about people. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because God has given me different experiences to experience the world and the faith and the different religions. So I think that's beautiful what you said, and I'm glad you also experienced it at the Interfaith Forum. And I hope you get invited to more conferences, because I have generally around the world, and I've met religious leaders around the world, and I just love the space, and I love how they come together to want to do something positive for society, right? So just to go back now, and I'm mindful of the time, and I know you have other engagements tonight. I want to talk a little bit about, youth, right? And they feel overwhelmed, they feel unheard. Lots of them are going through their challenges, and they come from a space of unemployment. We see a lot of things happening. We know that AI is also stealing the unemployment space now. It's a new thing we have to know how to navigate and manage. You can see it's a different kind of world, a world with more difficulties and hardships. So how can young leaders, stay grounded in integrity and purpose, and especially when the systems around them, don't reflect these values? So what is your thoughts on this, and what would you like to, share with the youth out there, being a youth yourself, like in leadership position, how can they stay grounded in integrity and purpose?
Yeah, I think I can't offer a blanket solution, but I can tell you how I've done it and how I've tried to remain grounded. And I think it comes down to like those two Bible verses it comes down to whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, and you pour your everything into it, and you never leave anything undone. And then it also comes into that other Bible verse of, better is a poor man that is righteous, than a rich man who's crooked in his ways. And that's what grounds me. And that's what reminds me that chasing all the money in the world you can do that, but it means nothing if you're not a good person. And so to remain grounded in integrity, I think for me, it comes down to that. It also obviously a big part that or something that has played a big part in that is my family, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. They have shown me. I think, I understand not everybody's family is like that. And I understand that not everybody can immediately see somebody that can have that type of effect on them. But I think if there's somebody out there watching this thing now and you are looking at this and you're thinking, but I don't have that, I want you to know that us two sitting here now having this conversation, are here for you. And if you've got access to this, you've got access to my email address, you've got access to the comment section, get in contact. And I'm sure you'd agree, we would love to build a relationship, forge a connection, have a friendship, and be able to be there for you, And then I think another thing that I want to touch on that's related to your question is I want to touch on how we as, not necessarily the person, let's say, how can I help others remain grounded in their integrity? I think a way that I can do that is by also showing them the kindness of the world, because it comes down to the role that my family has played in my life is when I go through a tough time, I know that my family is always there. I know that I have I think of two people in my life that are my friends, and I think of them and I know, right, I know I can always go to her no matter what, because she's been there, she's been by my side, she's been my friend through thick and thin. And so I think I'd like to encourage people that are watching this, perhaps if you are in the position where you have people that keep you grounded, where you have people that show you the light in this world, I would like to encourage you to be that person to somebody out there who perhaps doesn't have that person in their life yet. Be that person that shows somebody else, that shows that young person that you meet today, that the world isn't just bad. The world has good people in it. The world is a good place, and there is hope for the world. And I think another point is that to remain grounded in integrity, you need to know your purpose. I think it's something that I encounter very often, speaking to my friends now that we're at the point of our lives where we need to start applying to universities and then we need to figure out what are we doing after school. A lot of my friends don't know what they want to do. And I think a lot of it comes down to not knowing what your purpose is. And everybody's purpose differs. And I think the big turning point for me was realizing that I think that I have been put here to help other people and to be of service to others. And so I think that's majorly guiding the way that I want to go with my studies and what I want to do in life and how I want to go into the workplace. But I think to remain grounded, you need to know your why. And I think for me, because my why is other people, my why has got nothing to do with me. My why is actually all about helping others. And I think remaining grounded for me has got a lot to do with that as well. Knowing that my purpose, or at least what I think my purpose is to help other people. And so remembering that keeps me grounded as well. Yeah.
That's quite beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to highlight the points that you said, right? So it's, from what I'm hearing from our conversation, right? It's firstly, it starts with faith, right? Because we said it's about serving, not only the community, but God as well, your creator, who you relate to and resonate with in your faith, right? And also knowing that we're not alone, right? We can see our life is guided. There's a divine will, there's a divine timing, and and as you said, the divine timing and divine will, once you connect to that, it will lead to your purpose. And And part of that is also knowing your purpose. And sometimes as youth, we may not know our purpose. We have to try a few things before we discover our purpose. And that's okay too, right? Because I'll give you like a small example. While reaching for a higher education sets your life up at a higher goal, but there's also other ways to reach higher goals in terms of your creativity. Like, your purpose might not be university. It could be something creative that could lead to helping mankind or your community, but also helping you as well. And for me, I'll give an example. Like when I decided to study and I went into architecture, I had no money, zero bank balance. My parents are pensioners, zero bank balance, but I worked my way up. I would only go to varsity with 15 Rand in my pocket for taxi fare. That's all I had. And lunch. That was it for me for university. But I still went and I wanted to make something because I wanted to do architecture because I was so, I was so taken back with it, And when I finished matric, I worked hard. And from that, I ended up using those A's to get percentage off university. And every time in university, I worked hard to get percentage off, to get bursaries and scholarships. And I paid my way like that. And my parents supported me whatever they can, but it wasn't much, And how I got through my studies? That comes to the next point you made clear is association. So your association for you was your family that gave you that support, right? But some may not have family, right? And some of them may have families that are not in the position to give them that support. But your association to your faith and to God and which connects to your family and your friends all ends up lining up. Because how I got through my campus days was my friends. They would buy me lunch. They would literally, I needed model making materials. They would literally buy that for me, right? Because I didn't have money. I would go to cousins' house and use their computers because I didn't have computer. And I would stay till like late in the LAN because I had friends who was in the LAN that would stay after hours just to print out my architectural work for me to help me out so I could present it the next day. Thank God we're not in campus anymore. We can't get in trouble now. But it was those friends that helped me. Every one of them, when I needed transport and lift, I would take 2 taxis to campus, 2 taxis home, stand in the queue for like 3 to 4 hours waiting for a taxi home, right? But I wanted it, and I made it happen for myself no matter what challenges I went through. And I just ended up meeting the right association that helped me through it all. And when I got my degree, I thanked every single friend from whatever they did, from buying me lunch to, helping me with, the lift to staying late with me to print so I could submit something because I didn't have printing money. And as you said, it's not about the money that makes the person. And when you want to do something, the divine, your association and the support, everything will come up. And it shows that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You can go beyond your situation. So I think this is a wonderful way to end our podcast. It's been a beautiful conversation. I could go on talking about these things with you because I can relate to what you're saying, and I understand it, So, is there any final thing you want to say before we end off to sum up what we spoke here today, and anything you just want to add?
Yeah. So, firstly, I want to say a very big thank you to you for the conversation. I think it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I cannot believe it's been an hour. The time has just flown. It's blew right past me. So thank you very much. And then I think if there's one thing that I could leave the listeners or the watchers, the viewers with is, I think it's look for that purpose. And then I think I'm going to leave you with with a sentiment behind those 2 Bible verses is, whatever you do it properly. I think that's number 1. And then number 2 is do it with a good heart and try your best to be kind and just make someone else's day, do everything that you can, do it with pure intentions and do it with a good heart, do it with an open heart. And I promise you everything else will come into place. And yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I wish you the best on everything that you're doing in your studies, your school, and in your foundation as well. You're doing amazing stuff. As you said, people can follow you on Facebook and Instagram and your website and know how to be involved more. And I think, thank you for being an inspiration and thank you for being the youth leadership that we need today. We need more youth like you out there. Imagine if we had more Michaels out there, how this world would be, right?
It would be a little bit chaotic.
But I tell you, it's very inspiring. It's been very inspirational, and I'm glad to have met you on this journey as well. And I hope you keep inspiring others. Keep doing what you're doing, no matter what challenges and hardships you face, because we need more youth like you in this world in terms of leadership. And it's great what you're doing because you're showing the community, you're showing society, you're showing youth out there that one, we're not a victim of our circumstances. Two, we have to walk the talk. In order to see that change in the world, we have to be that change in the world. It starts with us, no matter how small. The smallest thing you do is going to make a difference. It's going to bring value, positivity, and good energy in this world that is so needed. And that no matter which youth is listening to us and whatever you're going through in life, know that there's always a purpose for your existence, your creation, and you can always make a difference in this world and in your life. And that, it's a beautiful world out there. It's how we choose to see it. Okay, so thank you so much and all the best.
Perfect. Thank you. All the best.